We farm bees. So just like you would farm chickens or cattle, our animal is a bee. We're experts in how to go about propagating that bee so that we can use them in pollinating different crops around the U.S.
Mason bees are a good candidate for propagation because we figured out how to build nesting material that mimics places that they would nest in nature. We figured out what shape and size of cavity they like to nest in, and so it's easy for us to replicate that with human-made materials. Because they're solitary, that's what makes them non-aggressive. They don't have one queen bee to protect. All the females lay their own eggs, so they're completely non-territorial and non-aggressive.
30 years ago, they started researching these bees, but nobody could propagate them in large numbers, and that was the problem. They knew they were great pollinators, but how do you have great numbers? So our first year we bought some bees and we tried it. We've had a lot of failures, but about 4 to 5 years into it, we feel like we kind of figured out how to propagate them.
The question I answer more than any other question is, how do you rent a bee? People will see our banner that says rent Mason bees, and people have to stop and ask. Usually it starts by me just explaining what a Mason bee is, that it's actually not a honey bee, it's one of our native bees. But everyone's always really interested, and so it starts by me explaining what a Mason bee is, why they're important for our ecosystem, how they can help your garden, your fruit trees, that sort of thing, and then I just explain how easy it is to host them in your backyard.
What I always emphasize is it is so easy to rent Mason bees. What I do, since we're a neighborhood group, is I send out an email to my neighbors, let them know it's bee time, they rent the bees themselves, they pay for them online, and then I pick them up. When I bring them home, literally all we do is put a nail in a sunny spot, you hang the house. You know, we like to do it with our kids so they know the bees are here. And then I watch them. We all watch them.
When we learned about Mason bees, we learned that they don't sting. They're very safe for the kids. You don't even know they're around. They just kind of go about their business and pollinate and then go back up. And the kids just love it because they're able to watch them without having any interference and without any worry about getting stung. So they were a perfect fit for what we needed. Our signal that the bees were there is they leave a little scent mark on the outside of the tube so that they know that's where they have to come back to. So that's where the kids would always come in reporting, there's a scent mark, there's another bee. So that's how we could see that it was working.
So our busiest time of year is the spring. That's when the Mason bees are going out, and so that's when I'm shipping bees. It's a lot of community outreach during the springtime. Once all the bees are out, I spend a lot of my time just answering questions, people calling me, emailing me, asking, is this what I'm supposed to be seeing? Is this what's supposed to be happening? And then by June, the bees are done flying. They've laid their eggs in the boxes, and so then that's when I go back out to all of our events and people return their bees.
They're brought in usually in June, and they come into this room here, and we temperature control them all summer. And then by September, you have a full adult bee inside a cocoon, and it's hibernating. So at that point, we can handle them. We take apart these laminates that are here, we extract all the cocoons, we treat the nests with heat. It kills any pollen mites that might be left on the materials. Then we take the cocoons, and we actually wash them in a bleach solution, and helps remove the mites from the cocoons. And we soak them for 10 or 15 minutes in this bleach solution, and then take them out. We put them on a little conveyor that we've invented that sprays them and gets all the stuff off the outside of the cocoon. And then we dry them and put them on a light table after that to pull out any bad cocoons and clean them up. And then they're weighed and put into cold storage at about 36 to 38 degrees all winter, where they just hibernate. Next spring, when they're ready to hatch, you have a really fat, happy bee.
Some of the bees grown through the Rent Mason Bees program will be put back into the program and end up in other people's backyards the following spring. And some of the bees will end up on farms, pollinating things that end up in our grocery stores.
With a mason bee, we only put 1,000 bees per acre. And so the farmer, quite often, the first year, is like, this isn't working. I don't see any bees. And so we have to actually teach them, it's okay. Look, there's a bee that just flew by. There's a bee on this flower. And then where they really find out whether it's working is what kind of yield did they get on their crop. That shows that it's working. One of our growers this last year used our bees on 120 of their acres, and they got 800 pounds per acre more than they've gotten in the past. They were like, okay, that worked. The future of mason bees we think is really bright. We have a long ways to go. In Central California during almond season, over 80% of the honeybees in the US go to Central California for pollination. It's the largest pollination event in the world. We can help alleviate that, but we need a lot of bees to do that, to have any sort of impact. So the more the merrier.
We have people who have huge amounts of acreage that rent bees, and we have people who live in apartments that rent bees from us. So it's that easy. Anybody can do it.
As a family, we'll probably do this every year. It's really great for the kids, and it's just our way of contributing and giving back.
Whether you have a small yard, a large yard, we all share space. Bees don't know what fences are. And so they get to fly around, and we have so many people participating that they've now told others, and it's become a bigger thing.